Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New Author Podcast. Today is Friday, December 20th, 2024. This is episode number 291. I am one of the hosts of this podcast, Jerry Evanoff, and with me, as he is each week, is Rich Kacy. Rich, how are you doing today?
My nerves are shot, Jerry. I've been dealing with teenagers all week. I've
Ooh.
developed a facial tic, and I'm, I'm like 30 seconds away from just exploding half the day.
Yeah.
uh,
Do you
yeah, we
ever
got all
wonder,
the
wait, you were a teacher, though, right? Were you an actual professor in the classroom teaching?
yeah. But those are a little bit older
Okay.
teenagers, but these are like high school and junior high kids. Well, I'll talk about it a little bit
Okay.
later. But
Yeah.
we had to deal with a whole lot this week, so.
All right. Well, I'm looking
But I
forward to
made it
hearing about that.
through and it's all over, and so won't have to deal with it again until probably May. So,
Oh, what? Oh, because
next May.
that's when because they go back to school, right?
Well, we get them, they flood the library at the
Yeah.
end of every semester, in principle, studying for exams.
Right.
But
Yeah. All right, so let me go ahead and jump right into my stats then, and let me just say that I am sick, and I hate being sick. I think I'm just coming down the other side of the hill of being sick, but we'll see. I guess tomorrow morning when I wake up, my throat hurts right now, and my head is all stuffy, and it's annoying, and I don't like it, considering I never do get sick, and now I finally did, and it's annoying. So, all right, let's see. I'm going to start with my goal. My goal last week was to get 6,000 words. I fell just short of it, right around 5,600 words short of it, and I ended the week with 367 words, and it took me to 27,300. I'll talk about why. I worked almost every day when I said I was going to work. Just one day I didn't, and I had to do something else, and I'll talk about why when I get there. My running total for the year, I really was going to get over 200,000 for you this week, but unfortunately, the 367 words just pushed me to 198.90. So I'm what 1910, right? 1910
right,
away. So I should be able to get that this week, but we'll see. My average words is still sitting 1,140. So it's still when I talk about the week, in my opinion, it was still a good week. Obviously, I failed at the word count goal, but I did keep going, so it's good.
yeah, you've got to reach for that 1910, even if you end up on your deathbed, because
Yeah.
that'd be pitiful to miss it that close.
Oh, I would love to get 199,999. I would take that.
Oh, that'd be
In
okay
fact,
too. Yeah,
maybe I'll
yeah.
stop writing if I'm really close to that too. Yeah.
Because if you get that, then it's obvious that you could have easily gone over 200, but you had the
Right.
self-discipline not to. Right.
Have you ever seen the movie Midnight Run?
No, I don't think I have.
It's one of my all-time favorite movies. It's from the mid 80s, and there's a scene at the very end, spoiler alert, and I won't spoil it too much. You should watch it. It's really funny. It's Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin and John Ashton, I think his name is, and Yaphet Kotto is in it, and the bad guy. I can't remember the bad guy's name, but he was the second host of Unsolved Mysteries. It's just a great movie, but in the very end, it looks like Robert De Niro is going to succeed, and then he doesn't, but he just looks and says, I would have made it. That's what I would do. I would be like 199.99. I would have made it. Yeah.
Yeah. If I wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
My week, writing wise, wasn't stellar, but it wasn't too bad either. I did make it through chapter 4 of the novel that I've been editing. Lost about 1,000 words in the process, so the whole thing now stands at 56,257 words. But I also began a new story, which is going to be a taboo riff on the older teacher high school girl trope.
Okay.
I don't know where this. Well, I do know where this came from. It's because I happened to during the week I watched Miller's Girl. I don't know if you've ever seen that
Mm-mm.
with Jenna Ortega, and I can't remember the guy's name. The guy he played Watson on one of the Sherlock Holmes,
Oh,
the Sherlock Holmes with
Benedict.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
so
know who that would have been. Yeah.
I can't remember what the guy's name is. He's in a lot of things, but yeah, it was a pretty tawdry film. But for some reason it caught my attention this week. I got 835 words in, basically got the first chapter, got the setup there. So I had a goal of editing 5 chapters. I only edited 4, or editing through chapter 5. I only edited through chapter 4, but I also made a start on a new story. So I'm going to call it was definitely a win for the week, especially considering everything that was going on at work, which I'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah. Right. I might make what you said to me earlier. I might make that the title. But
Which was what?
I hate teenagers. I think you said.
Oh,
All I heard was I hate teenagers. I kind of summed it up. I'm paraphrasing kind of what you said, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You might get a better quote later on. We'll see.
Yeah, no, good. All right, so let's get back to my week here. Last Saturday, I kind of hung around the house for a little bit. Once I got up, I didn't go directly to Chick-fil-A just because my mom and dad wanted me to meet them around 10:30 at the furniture place to pick a recliner out for my mom for Christmas. My dad and
Oh,
I ended up splitting it. She picked one out, and so then from there, I went to the UPS store, mailed my sister her family's present, and yeah, so the last couple years I've tried to wrap the gifts and mail them in a giant box
mhm,
instead of like having Amazon ship them, because they don't do a very good job of wrapping them, and I wanted to have a little bit more
right.
fun with it. So I mailed that box off, and I actually went to the box score first, then I went to the furniture store, and then I was off to Chick-fil-A, and by now it's lunchtime, and I wanted to do some writing. I got there, and two of my tables that I normally sit at were both taken. I asked, they have the people that walk around and clean your, take your, give you the candy and take your food, refill your
Right.
drink, and everything. And I asked one of them if I could kick the people out, and they said no. So I had to sit into a table that I'm not used to sitting at, which was a little
Which
strange for me. But
what you really should have done is just gone over and just stood there and looked at the table
oh,
until it stared at them until they left.
I actually like that idea a lot. Yeah, I wish I had. So I sat down and began to write. I started working on. Well, I don't even remember what chapter I was on. I was on right around 12 or 13, and I started to realize that I'm writing these scenes where Sam and at some point with him also is Danny. They're kind of walking around talking to the different townspeople, and Sam's really interested in why his dad is connected to this guy that got killed. And we're in book 7, and book 9 is going to be the story where I actually solve the mystery of what happened to his mom and dad. And and I wanted to start introducing different elements in this story. And I had written about 5 different chapters where Sam was just talking to different people, and basically the dialogue from the other person started to become repetitive. It started to be boring. I really just thought by the 5th time he has the same conversation with someone that this is not working. This is not good. I really need to sit down and work out what happened to his parents, and then try to tie it back to book 7 before I wrote any more in book 7. So I got the 300 and whatever I said, 367 or whatever I said earlier, done before I actually stopped. And then really, so the plan became, let's sit down and plot book 9, not necessarily chapter by chapter, but let's get the overarching plot. Overarching, I do that every time. Overarching plot of the entire series. Let's figure out why his parents died. Let's figure out how it happened, who did it, who the suspects are going to be, and where else in the series I can introduce them. I don't want to just bring them out in book 9. Okay, here's your 5 suspects. I really wanted them to work their way throughout the series, and then in book 9 have Sam start to connect everything all together. So I stopped. I think
Yeah,
I went home.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I want to butt in here for a second that whether it's overarching or overarching depends on what you think about what it is you're doing. If it's the thing that holds up the whole story, then it's obviously an arch. If it's an arc, it's the thing that people it's something that rises and then falls throughout
Mm-hmm.
the story. So yeah, that's
Anytime
pretty
I say
interesting.
it, I think of the same thing, which is the St. Louis Arch, which
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I went into once. I got in the elevator, and you go sideways, you go around the
Right.
curve, and it's a little tiny egg that you're in, and it's super claustrophobic. And then I got up to the top of it, and I walked around for about 30 seconds and went, yeah, I've had enough of this. And I got out of there. I am not a claustrophobic person except for that one time. That was rough. So
I've
I
been
always
in there,
think
but
that.
I've been in there and I thought what they should have done with that when they built it is they have the egg or the elevator goes up on the one side, but you have to take it slide down the other side.
Oh, that'd have been
Have a have,
amazing. I go
have a
up
big
and down a
slide.
couple times. Yeah, that I like.
Yeah.
So I went home Saturday after Chick-fil-A. I probably left a little bit earlier. If I had been writing and getting words down, I probably would have stayed a little bit longer and got some more words down. But I was really literally just stuck. So Sunday morning, I'm off to Panera, except I wasn't. I woke up. We had an icy, rainy morning. I really did not want to drive anywhere. So I didn't go anywhere. I didn't go to Panera. I didn't go to the grocery store. I literally went nowhere. Right around lunchtime, I jumped in the car and I went to the Dairy Queen for lunch. And this is a Dairy Queen I can literally see from my back porch. So it's not like I had to go very far. Um, and then I came home, I watched football, played my football game, made a YouTube video, and that was really about it. And that's, if I wasn't attempting to be a writer, that's right, that's a good day for me right there. That's a sign
Yeah,
that
sure.
I enjoy life. So Monday I'm back in the office. And okay, so we're gonna talk about I'm gonna get right into my my addicted to here a little bit. I'll talk about it a little bit later too. But I was listening to this Red and Buried podcast that you brought up maybe a month
Uh-huh.
ago. I love this podcast for a couple different reasons. Number one, the host Frankie. That's all I know about her. I know her name is Frankie. That's it. She's hilarious. And I think
Mhm.
you had mentioned when you first brought it up. She's not a writer. She just gets these mystery writers on and just talks to them. But the interview style is a little bit different because she's
Right.
not a writer. And she was talking to somebody on. They did a special episode that came out on Monday, and I was just sitting at work early in the morning listening to it, and they were doing a special 75th anniversary conversation about the re-release of And Then There Were None, which is my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book, I'm sure. And and just offhandedly, she mentioned how she hosts another podcast about Perot, and I was like,
Really?
wait, I love Perot, and I love Agatha Christie, and I had to do a little bit of searching for it because again, she, you really can't find out much about her. You go to the Red and Buried podcast. I don't think I found it there. I think I had to search like Frankie Red and Buried Perot podcast or something before I ended up finding it. And it's literally just a rewatch that started. She started it back in 2022 with another guy. His name's Adam, and they're literally going throughout each episode talking. And I love that show. So like, I'm loving it. This is great. And I listened to the first one, and it's going to become my that Perot podcast. It's called the Labors of Perot. Or, I can't remember now. It's down farther in the podcast outline here, and when I get down there, I'll talk about it some more. Yeah. So anyway, so that was awesome in the morning. I was so happy to hear that. And then at lunch, this is kind of where I realized I was stuck. I knew on Saturday that I was stuck, but I sat down to work on the next chapter, and I really had no idea what to do. And again, it goes back to the fact that I didn't know how to tie Sam's father into book 7 in a proper way because I had no idea what actually happened to him. I never sat down to plot that. And I built it up in the first book to be this big government conspiracy. Was he a spy? Is he an assassin? And I had a fake TV show that did like a fake, like, true TV, crime TV, the Murder Channel TV show that did like a 1 hour documentary on them, like they do, but they like built it up into this big thing that he's gonna actually deal with in book 9. um
Mhm.
and so then what I did was I typed into a Word document, everything that I knew about every character in all the main characters, not the side characters, all the main characters, and then I put synopsis of each plot. I put anything that had to do with his parents that I've brought up in different books, and I went into ChatGPT and I literally pasted it in there, and I just said, okay, let's talk about the characters, let's talk about the suspects. Sorry, I'm sick. Let's talk about how those suspects can fit into the earlier books based on those plots. And I worked with ChatGPT basically my whole lunch break to come up with 5 suspects and why they could have did it, who actually did it, what their motives are, how they fit into Sam's life, and how they're going to fit into the other books. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is really what I needed. But I wasn't done. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't done. This was just kind of the start. So I worked the rest of the day. And then in the evening, I made some hamburger helper because I love that stuff. And then I went to bed. And just as the football games were starting, I went to bed. Like, I was beat. And I think this is probably when I started getting sick. I didn't mention it. I don't know why I didn't put it in the outline, but I didn't mention it. But Saturday night, I went to see the Little River Band.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned
Yeah,
that
and it was
last week.
great. It was so
Oh,
great. They did like an
yeah.
hour and a half. They did all the songs that and I was jam packed in this little tiny restaurant that was packed because the city of Warren, which is where the concert was hosting the concert, but it was also hosting like their downtown Christmas stuff. So there was like
Mhm.
people everywhere. The restaurant was packed. Then I went to the concert. It was packed, and I'm pretty sure that somebody in one of these 2 places probably was carrying some kind of a virus that ended up spreading to a lot of people. I got to text my buddy Tim and see if he's sick too. So
Hey, I've got a quick question for you.
yeah.
What is your process for interacting with ChatGPT when you're trying to come up with more detail about your characters and what's happened to them and things like that? How do you work
Um,
that?
So what I try to do is I try to type as much information as I can into the window before I hit enter, which it kind of rough because for whatever reason I try to format it properly, which ChatGPT doesn't care. You can just type just
Right.
one giant paragraph. But I think for my own sake, I just try to format it a little bit. And I'm stalling here because I'm going to try to pull it up and just. Well, I'll read to you what I wrote. Except for I'm not going to read to you the entire Word doc. The Word document was like 4 pages,
Okay.
and I just pasted it in here. Okay, here we go. So we're getting to the bat. I'm scrolling up ChatGPT now. scrolling up. Okay, so there's the big thing I typed. And again, I mean, I'll give you snippets here. I literally wrote. It's funny with this one. I wrote, "Good morning, ChatGPT. I'm going to tell you all about a book series I'm writing. 9 books. The genre is similar to is an amateur sleuth murder mystery, similar to the style of Hercule Poirot books. Each of the first 8 have their own mystery, but there's also an overall mystery that runs throughout the series. I want to tell you what I have so far, and then ask you to help me plot the overall mystery and how it works in book 9. Does that make sense?" I don't know why I do that. Why I just ask ChatGPT, "Does that make sense?" and then let it answer me first.
Right.
And ChatGPT, it loves you, so it's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Let me know what it is. So then I posted in, I wrote like, let's start with our main characters. Let's go into the books. Like I put everything in there that I could think of that had to do with his parents. But then I said at the very
Okay.
end, they wrote, this is then ChatGPT's response was, "This is a fascinating and layered story." I mean, it always loves what you do. It says, this is ChatGPT. "I have a good sense of the series scope and themes, but a few follow-up questions will help clarify." Now, I didn't tell it to ask me questions. It did it anyway. And it
Okay.
asked me 9 questions, the tone, more about his parents, things. What do I want in terms of hints from previous books? What kind of theme did I want? Do I want betrayal of a character that is known in the book as a good guy or a bad guy? A good guy, I guess. And then a little bit more down, it asked me 9 questions, and I just answered them. And a lot of the answers were just, "I don't know. Let's talk about it." Like, I don't know what I want yet.
Right.
And then it gave me a bunch of. Now, this is what it does. It's like, here's 10 possible scenarios for what happened to his parents. And then I look through the 10, and I say, I like 1, 5, and 6. I said, but before we look at that, give me more of number 10, because I like that one. I said, give me 10
Right.
more and introduce new villains, people I haven't mentioned so far, so I can go back and incorporate them into the plot. So it did that. I really remember what did I say? It gave me 10 more. And I said, I like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4. And with 1 being the killer. And I said, now how do I incorporate them? And it gave me some more. And it's kind of a back and forth now where I'm like, I like this, change it. I don't like this, change it. I like this, let's keep it. And at the same time, I'm copying and pasting into Scrivener the things that I like, just to keep a record of it in case ChatGPT forgets it or it crashes or whatever.
Right.
Did
Right.
that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, the reason I brought it up is as I'll mention later, I was listening to a podcast this past week by Ryan Halliday, and he was saying the way he uses ChatGPT is actually a couple different things. He can, if he's unsure about how to create a prompt for a GPT to do something, he asks ChatGPT to create the prompt for him.
Sure. I've
So,
seen
so
Jason, the nerdy
yeah,
novelist, do that. Yeah.
right. So he'll say, I'd like to do this. Create for me a prompt that will allow LLMs like yourself to actually do this. But the other thing he does is he doesn't wait for the AI to start asking him questions. He literally says, "Interview me
Yep.
so that you can get the kind of information that you need in order to do what I'm wanting you to do." So, but that's essentially what happens if does come back to you and start asking you questions. It's interviewing you because it senses it has not enough information to complete the task.
I've done that before where I'll say, here's a whole, and no, 2 things. I'm not afraid to give it way too much information, and I'm also
Mhm.
not afraid to tell it, no, you did it wrong. Like I'll go back if it starts giving me an answer and I'm like, oh, I don't like that. I'll hit stop and I'll go back and I'll revise my question and I'll hit it
Mhm.
again so that I know that it won't give me that in the answer again. So I do a lot of
Right,
editing of my questions. I'll do that a
right,
lot actually. Instead of
right,
asking it again, because I'm afraid that the farther up it goes, the text goes, it's going to forget it at some point.
right,
So if I
right,
can edit and have it just do the same thing over again, I'm happy with it. I'm also not
right.
afraid to yell at it if I don't like what it's doing. It In this conversation here, it kept giving me horizontal lines between each. Like I'll say, give me 10, and it'll give me a horizontal line with blank spaces on each side of it, blank lines. I hate that because I have to scroll like crazy and I can't copy and paste it. So I'll tell it, don't do this, and then it'll do it again a little later, and I'm like, why do you keep doing this? At one point, I think in this one, I said, if you do that again, I'm going to start swearing at you. And because it's funny and it makes me laugh, but
Yeah,
also it's
yeah,
every now and then I'll try to get it to write a sex scene out of nowhere and it doesn't
yeah.
do it. And I'll just write, dude, I was just teasing you, ChatGPT. I know you're a prude. You're probably blushing right now. And it'll come back with some little funny joke. The whole thing is hilarious with ChatGPT. I really love using it for the plotting because of just what comes out of it. Um,
Yeah.
but by the time I was done with this one on Monday, I had all that fun stuff. Um, but and that's the other thing is you had said that he sometimes will tell it to interview him. what
Right.
what I'll do a lot is I'll say, here's a whole bunch of information. Before you answer my question, I want you to ask me more questions to get more what information you think you need. And it usually comes up with 10. It's a round number usually. In
Right.
this case, I didn't ask it to ask me questions, but it gave me 9 questions, which is nice. I
Good.
like when it does that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, so that was Monday lunch, and by the time I was done, or was that Tuesday? That was Tuesday lunch, or that was Monday lunch, and then Tuesday I was back in the office again. No writing, still working through the books 9 stuff. I came up with a couple more characters, and I started working on now how I'm going to incorporate them into each series. Now this is not something I really could do with ChatGPT, because ChatGPT doesn't know all the minor characters and doesn't know the connections in the different stories. So I just kind of looked at all the characters and started taking notes on how I can get them into each series. Is somebody related to somebody, or is somebody going to be? I think the murder I'm going to have in book 2, and then show up again a couple more times. But it's got to be natural. It can't be, oh, look who's here out of nowhere, and then they're never heard from again in the book. It's got to be
Yeah.
more natural than that. So,
Right. Right.
and let's see what let's see. So as I was doing this, I mentioned earlier that the TV show is called Behind the Lens. It's a parody or a takeoff of a show that I love on the ID network called it's the one where they solve things with the mystery, all the security cameras. See No Evil, it's called. It's a great.
Mm.
It's really the only show on the ID network I watch. And I thought, well, let's create a parody or a fake one called Behind the Lens, and that's the show that does the documentary on Sam's parents a few weeks before book 1. And it's like extraordinary. They make stuff up. They take witnesses' statements out of context to make it sound like this big crazy conspiracy. And then I thought to myself, I should like create the this is like a not a pamphlet, and it took me back to 2022 when I went to 20 books, and I can't remember her name, but it was the best talk that I'd seen anyone give that year. And she was talking about how at the end of each of her romance books, she just writes a scene or a chapter that could be the wedding or the honeymoon. And then she gives it away for free in the back of her novels. And it's what keeps the audience engagement on her newsletter. Good. And I thought I can do this for this, because it can be a couple pages. It doesn't very long. So I did go to ChatGPT and say, give me a template for what one of these shows would look like. And it did. So then I started mixing in, okay, here's where this person's going to be interviewed, and here's where this person's going to, here's what they're going to say. And I'm going to probably do that as a extra at the end of book 1, I think is probably what I'm going to do. And try to give it away for newsletter clicks.
Yeah, that's very common in the romance genre to essentially have an epilogue but you don't just give it away. You get a sign up for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wish I could remember her name, because it was 2 years ago, but it was so good. And every now and then she shows up in my YouTube. It's like a guest on somebody's podcast, and it's driving me crazy that I can't remember her name. But just go back 2 years in the podcast list and find the one that's like early December, and I'm sure I talked glowingly about her. I talked about her the same way, not the same way I'm about to talk about Frankie, but yeah, it was good. So anyway, Wednesday I worked from home. There was nothing writing related on this day. This is when I woke up and started to feel a bit of a sore throat coming on, which happens to me every now and then. My house gets really hot, so I have like air conditioners running sometimes at night, even in the winter. I have the heater kicks on. Then it's a whole thing with my house, and I get it every now and then where I wake up with a dry throat and it just feels a little sore. And it's gone within an hour. This one was not gone anytime soon. It's still not gone now. And Thursday I was back in the office, and I still wasn't quite ready to get back to writing in book 7. I've got the suspect worked out. I've got the reasons his parents died and how, but I wanted to get back to the reason why I stopped in the first place, which is the 5 conversations that I had written in book 7, where they all basically say the same thing. And so I went back into my plot for book 7. I took the character sketches that I had from book 7. Again, went back to ChatGPT and started having conversations with ChatGPT about how to make each one of them different, but not make them sound ridiculous. And I think I'm pretty much there. I think tomorrow morning I'll be ready to go back to writing book 7. When I sit down tomorrow morning, wherever I go, and we'll get to that in a little while, I may have a little bit of a delay before I start writing, as I'm just getting back into it and figuring out what I want to. Do I want to go back and edit these conversations? Do I want to make some notes and then get right back into the story where I don't have any words at all and just get the first draft done? I don't know yet. So I'll figure that out tomorrow. But I'm pretty sure I feel pretty good about where I'm at now.
Good deal.
Today, woke up working from home. I'm now working from home for the next 17 days. 10 of those are actually days off because of holidays and weekends. 7 of them are work days. And well, today was one of them. So 6 of them now are work days. And I'm working from home every day, which is going to make writing really hard. I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. But, nothing much today. I woke up today feeling about as bad as I had for this 3 days of being sick. And I was exhausted kind of mentally. There were a couple times where I kind of checked out. I took some aspirin. I didn't really eat much, and whatever it was, right around 3:30, I started to feel good again in terms of my energy, like it was back, and I felt good about that. Now I just have to get past the stuffy head and the sore throat, which I'm hoping will start to kind of wane tomorrow morning when I wake up.
Right, right. That's usually a long tail at the end though,
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
yeah, it does decrease over time.
yeah. So that was my week. I mean, I feel like I had a really productive week, even though I didn't have a lot of words because I still worked on the series. I did a lot into book 9. It's a lot less that I'll have to do now when I get ready to write it. So I'm really happy with what happened this past week, even though my goal was a fail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing about this writing gig is that there's a lot of effort that goes in beyond creating words
Yeah.
for the story, and a lot of people just don't think about that, especially pantsers, like me, who just kind of dive in and just do stuff. Uh, but yeah, if you're a plotter, there's a lot of work that goes in. Some people, in fact, I forget who I was listening to a podcast with somebody on that will spend 3-4 weeks, fleshing out an outline and stuff, and then only spend like 6 or 7 days writing the whole
Oh,
book.
jeez.
Because they can write 10,000 words a day plus if they have a nice, neat outline for them to follow.
Oh, I'm so
So
jealous. I need to figure out a way to get my
yeah,
job to keep paying me the same amount, but let
yeah,
me only work
exactly,
like 2 days a week, and then I think life would be good. Yeah.
exactly. Well, next last week Friday after we had recorded, we had dinner and then we went out driving to look at Christmas lights because I was going to be working all week and I knew probably wouldn't have an opportunity. Uh, there's this lake near us that's right next to LSU, and it's circled by a road. It's a fairly substantial lake because I think the circumference of this road is like almost 4 miles because I
Wow.
used to run it back in the day. So it's a pretty large lake. And along it, there's a whole bunch of sorority and fraternity houses. And I knew they decorated up for the holidays. So after we drove the neighborhood around here, we went out there just to see what they did. And it was hilarious because the frat houses and the sorority houses are generally not next to each other. They're kind of in groups, uh, up, actually opposite each other almost on the lake. And the frat houses, they looked like the lights were and stuff were put up by drunken spiders.
Uh,
It was the lights were going every which way. Some of them were just shooting across space from the roof to a tree and stuff like that. And all the sorority houses looked like they were something out of Architectural Digest for a Christmas issue. Everything was just perfect and just what you would think. And I was thinking as we were driving around that, man, that really just sums up the difference between males and females in their late teens and early 20s. And that was reinforced later in the week, which I'll talk about
yeah.
when we get to that. Saturday, got up, started to clean the house a little bit, getting ready in anticipation of the kids coming home after Christmas. Then I laid down for a nap. I was kind of getting low energy. Wasn't getting sick, but I was just feeling worn out. I kind of blame the full moon that happened last
Oh.
weekend for not being able to sleep real well at night. Because sometimes that actually does happen to me, even though I think it's probably not really very scientific or anything. Um, when I did wake up, there's still a few hours of daylight left, so I went outside, tried to get some sun in my eyeballs, potted up some plants and planted some more leafy greens in trays that I'm now good. I brought in, parked them under some LED grow lights that we have in the house, and hopefully they'll grow while we're gone over the holidays. And then when I get back, I'll be able to plant them in the ground outside, assuming we don't doesn't look like we're going to have any hard freezes or anything like that. I didn't even contemplate writing last Saturday. Although I did sit down late in the evening and ordered myself a new fountain pen and some really cool inks and a few fancy writing notebooks with some money my mother-in-law gave me for Christmas. So I guess I did some slightly writing related adjacent activities. Sunday it was church in the morning, and then literally I did nothing but lay on the couch and watch football and then snooze and watch football and snooze. And I wish the snooze part would have come during the Lions game, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, but I tell you what, if these days don't start getting longer, which they're going to after today, uh, I was really thinking last Sunday that I may just spin a cocoon and disappear, or maybe emerge in the spring as a butterfly or something.
It's probably not a bad way to live.
Yeah. This week, during the week, Monday through today, I worked at the library each day, and they were all very similar. The days, it was kind of amazing. I got there, I would work on the public desk in the morning, except for Tuesday when I didn't get in until noon because that's when I start. Take a lunch break that I usually was allowed to stretch into 2 hours, 2.5 hours, during which time I could spend editing and doing the writing that I did get done during the week. And then I was back at the desk until close. Uh, and these days, while I was out there in the public, it was just absolutely crazy. We were just overrun by high school kids and junior high school kids pretending to study for exam. But really, you know, kids that age, they're just walking bags of hormones, and it was just with no impulse control at all. So I was breaking kids up because they were having pushing matches,
Oh,
and
jeez.
as one of my high school teachers used to say, Algie and Lulu were just going at it hot and heavy in the corner. And yeah, most I actually what's interesting is I'm kind of the most sanguine about that kind of thing of all the staff there. Maybe because I had to deal with people that were teenage adjacent when I was a college professor. And some of the people I work with, they're in their 70s and 80s, and they're just not having it. And
Oh,
some of
jeez.
them are ex-school teachers, and they're so any little bit of noise or anything, and sometimes you think they're going to have strokes.
Oh,
But they were school
jeez.
teachers back in the day where you take your yardstick and whack somebody upside the head. You can't do that
Mm.
anymore. Um, but thankfully, all that came to a dead stop today. Today was the last day of classes in town before Christmas break, so nobody was in there studying for nothing. And that's today is when I had a chance to write that 850 words or whatever it was on that new story that I've started. Um, so when I think back on what the day was like and how or the week was like and how crazy it was. I really shouldn't have had much time for writing, but I was able to do it, and so I was pretty pleased with it to get an additional 3 chapters edited and start a new story. Every one of the evenings during the week, I just completely goofed off after dealing with all that at work. I'd come home, we'd have dinner, we'd watch a show, a gardening show, which is we're back into now that we're getting looking forward to spring. And then I would spend a couple of hours watching YouTube while my wife sat next to me and read a
Nice.
book. It's not
Nice.
like I don't have a good example sitting next to me. I should pick up a book as well. In fact, I have two of them that I've started, but they're just sitting there. And I haven't picked them up again. I'm
Hey,
going to take them with me on the
I
trip.
know what that YouTube rabbit hole is like. It's
Yeah.
ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Especially, I'm really, I can sense I'm really pressing because I'm trying to find new people to watch. And it's
Yep.
just really hard to do.
Yep.
And then when I do find them, they're not watching the kind of stuff I want to, I'm not into death metal and stuff like that.
Right.
So in some sense, the algorithm really does work because it's feeding you what you want, but that runs out eventually.
Mhm.
So it's a good week. I mean, I enjoyed myself. I got I didn't actually yell at anybody, but I had to, you know, tell a few kids to knock it off and separate out some groups. I always enjoy kind of pushing kids around a little bit. That's kind of weird. But I
There's
was
your
telling,
title. I've been wondering when we'll get the
yeah.
title for this thing.
Okay, yeah. My running list of future things to do. I finally pulled the trigger today because it was the last day I could do it and signed up for the Future Fiction Academy, which is the Steph Pajanis and Elizabeth Ann West and that group who are kind of pushing the frontiers of using AI for writing and doing things all things authory. Uh, and they have their own GPT that they've developed
Oh.
special for authors. Uh, and the only way you can really get access to it is by joining the Future Fiction Academy, which is not cheap. It's $159 a month for
Wow.
membership. Um, the idea being, and they have a lot of classes, and they have this GPT, and they're really generating. They've been generating this content now for the last 2 or 3 years. But what was nice and what was ending today was a free first month. So a
Oh.
free 30 days to get in there, check everything out, see if it's something that you could actually use. And then from then on, it's $159 a month. You can stop and start whenever you want, I think. Um, I know you can stop whenever you want. I don't know if they'd let you back in once you did stop
Mhm.
because they're saying that they're not going to open it up again. That this is it uh, and
Wow.
they're just going to keep it as a small little club.
I find that
Uh,
very hard to believe, but
yeah.
okay.
So do I. I mean, they have a whole bunch of free stuff as well, and they have a whole bunch of courses that you can take as one-offs. Um, but they don't have, at least at the moment, they don't have any other way of accessing essentially what is a mastermind. They're essentially it's an AI writing mastermind. So I figure I'm gonna dip my toes in that over the next, at least next month, probably next 2 months. I wouldn't, if what I see in the first month is even halfway decent, I wouldn't mind going in there for a couple, paying $150 for an additional month, and just see if it helps at all. If it gives me ideas on better ways to use these LLMs in the writing process. And yeah, we'll see. So I'll be reporting on that later in the future, and we'll see how that goes. So that's on my running list of future things to do.
The only new thing on mine is I took off the update my website because that's done, and I added in the set up the author.email. Again, I have a free account there. I can at least set it up, see if I like it, get a list put up there, make sure BookFunnel's pointing to it, and then and just see how it goes. And if it's good, then go ahead and subscribe to it when I'm ready to release the novella and start sending emails out and start using BookFunnel to push it. And I'll probably do this because I'm writing from or working from home the next 2 weeks, and there's holidays and weekends, and it's a struggle for me to write. We've talked about that 1,000 times when I'm working from home. Um, I will be able to maybe take some time and set up this author.email over the next couple weeks. So
Mhm.
expect by the time New Year's runs around or comes around, expect me to have this set up and ready to go. And I say that knowing that it may not happen, but I always promise things and then don't do
Yeah,
it. It's what
yeah.
I do.
I,
In terms
I,
of
you know,
okay,
against all advice to ourselves, anyways,
yeah,
it seems to be a human nature to overpromise and underdeliver
mhm,
to
yeah,
yourself.
yeah, no doubt. My addicted to is the podcast I talked about earlier. It's called The Labors of Perot. I thought it was called The Labors of Hercule. I think it is The Labors of Perot though. That's based on the fact that there's one of his books, one of his collections of short stories is The Labors of Hercule Poirot, something like that. And so that's what they named the podcast. And it's this woman Frankie and this guy Adam, who I think Adam is a pretty successful podcaster. I don't know what it is. I never looked him up anywhere else. But I will say that these two together are hilarious. She is hilarious. I know nothing about her other than her first name. I don't know what she looks like. I don't know where she's from. She's from England somewhere. I don't know how old she is. I know nothing about her, Rich, and I may have a little crush. I'm just going to put that out there right now. She is funny. Holy cow. And he is perfect to be a podcast host with her because he is just as funny. I mean, they work so well together. If you're a fan of the show or if you're not, I would suggest go Google or look up on your podcasting app, The Labors of Perot. Labors is spelled with a U because it's British. And just give the first one a listen. They are hilarious. And I think I didn't listen to any today, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I think I listened to the first 10. And they're about, I don't know, they're probably 2 years. I'm about 2 years behind right now. They do them every couple of weeks. They don't do them every week.
Right.
And they're just getting into some of the 2 hour episodes. There's still a long way to go. And I'm going to do my best to catch up over the next few weeks so that I can listen to them
Spirit.
as they go. So I love it. I love it.
uh, Yeah. Well, first I was going to mention when you said the co-host's name was Adam, the first thing that popped in my head is, "Oh, I hope it's Adam Savage." But no,
It's
it's
not.
okay.
It's not.
Okay. My addicted to is also a podcast, and it's the Knowledge Project, which I may or may not have mentioned on this podcast before. It's put out by Farnham Street, which is actually headed by a guy named Shane Parrish. He's the one that does the interviewing and everything, and he does interviews with really high profile people. It does them about it releases one every 2 weeks, and these are really meaty interviews. They're like most of them are almost 2 hours long.
Wow.
So it's a lot like the Tim Ferriss approach to interviewing people. But there were two in particular this week that I ran across that are really good for creatives. And one was called Write Something People Want to Read by Charlie Hain, who is kind of a trad publishing insider on the nonfiction side. And he talks a lot about how to write nonfiction books that will hook people, what you need to be doing in terms of marketing and covers and everything. But the one thing I thought was really interesting they dropped was in terms of the editing and how much, once the book is written the first time around, how much effort should the author put into editing, and how should that be split up of the book. And he said the biggest problem he has with authors that he works with is they want to tease the important information and kind of save the big reveal to the end. And he says that's the exact opposite of what you need to do, at least in the nonfiction space. You want to hit people right away with all the big important points. And then later on, you can put in all the filler. And primarily that's because 90% of people never get more than halfway through a nonfiction book. They'll just completely drop off. So as a result, as an author who's going through rewrites, you want to put 80% of your effort into the first three or four chapters of the book, and the rest, don't worry about it because it doesn't really matter.
A new spin
Because
on
if
the
people
80-20 rule.
yeah,
I like it.
exactly, exactly. And the other one is really good about motivation and getting yourself to write and do things. What's called "How to Win the War with Yourself" by Ryan Holiday. Um, that was really interesting too. I like Ryan Holiday. I mean, he's kind of a I don't want to say he's not a jerk, but he thinks a lot about himself and always has, and he likes to game the systems, whatever system he's working in. The thing about the Knowledge Project that I really like is it gives you a broad exposure to people who have knowledge of lots of different things, and that's kind of what their raison d'être is just trying to expand people's awareness of what's out there in the world. And Shane Parrish does a good job of, for the most part, of not over talking the guests, allowing the guests to just go ahead and talk about what they're interested in. So yeah, it's worth a look. I'm listening to a really good one on the way home today by a psychologist at Yale or Harvard or someplace, talking about motivation, how you can motivate, how athletes motivate themselves during athletic competition and during practice and stuff, and how you can transfer that into all kinds of different endeavors. So that was a really interesting podcast as well.
All right, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to talk about the schedule for the next 2 weeks because we are not doing a podcast next week. Rich is traveling, and so we won't be doing one. So it's really my 2 weeks working from home. I'm going to do my best to write as much as I can, even though it's a struggle. And I'm going to continue to work on book 9 as I need to, and try to get back into the writing of book 7. I'll spend a lot of time watching football because it's on like every day now for the next couple of weeks. Um, so then tomorrow morning, most days are going to be the same. Tomorrow morning, though, I think I'm going to head up to the east side of Cleveland. Depending on the weather, there's supposed to be some snow, and if there's, the roads aren't terrible, I'm going to head up to the east side of Cleveland. There's a store called Micro Center that I love going to. It's
Yeah.
this giant computer store. So I will probably go there, and then on the way home, there's a Barnes and Noble. I may stop there also, and I'll probably try to find a Chick-fil-A or a Panera and go to early enough to where I can sit for an hour or two and write, and then head over to Micro Center from there. So that's the plan. Next Saturday, I'll do my normal Chick-fil-A in the morning, and then I'll go to do my writing, my plotting, run any errands I have, and then I'll go home, probably playing my football game and watching sports and all the stuff that I do. Both Sundays, I'll be doing Panera in the morning and then football in the afternoon. Both Mondays, I work from home. And again, I'll see if I can get some plotting done, some writing done, whatever I can. And then Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I'm off work both weeks for the eves and the days, Christmas and New
Mhm.
Year's. So I doubt I'll do much writing. Although, New Year's Eve, sometimes in the morning, I'll go get breakfast and I'll do some writing if I can. We'll see. And let's see. And then Thursdays and Fridays, I work both those days. Probably not a whole lot of rating on those days. And again, no podcast for us next week. We'll be back on Friday, January the 3rd, where we'll start talking about our end of 2024 goals and our 2025 goals, things like that. My goals for this week or these next 2 weeks is just really the plot of book 9 worked out as far as I need to. Doesn't have to be scene by scene, chapter by chapter, just as much as I need to get done so that I can get back into book 7. And then the second goal would be get back into book 7. So that is
Yeah.
where I'm at.
Okay. Well, I didn't have enough presence of mind to do 2 weeks worth of what I'm going to be doing, but I can do it off the top of my head because it's going to be pretty easy to think of. Tomorrow and Sunday, I work both days. When I'm not at work, I will be scrambling trying to get ready to leave for holidays, which we're going to be doing first thing Monday morning, hopefully before 5 in the morning, is what our target is to get out of here. Uh, if I do get to do any writing the next 2 days, it's obviously going to be at work. I do have high hopes actually getting something done, as I would think that the weekend before Christmas be really dead. Uh, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Monday and Tuesday, we'll be on the road driving to Detroit. Uh, Wednesday through Friday, well, the kids are flying into Detroit, Los Angeles on Wednesday. So I'll go on Christmas Day. So I'll go pick them up at the airport in the evening, and then we'll spend the next few days, Wednesday through Friday, with my mother visiting. And then next Saturday, I have to leave and come back to Louisiana. I'm going to be driving back by myself because I have to work on Monday, the Monday before New Year's. While Tammy and the kids are going to spend an extra day with my mom, and then they're going to fly to Virginia
Hmm.
to be with Tammy's parents for New Year's. Once I get back to Louisiana, I'll be working Monday through Saturday
Oh,
of that week,
okay.
other than having, I believe we don't have New Year's Eve off. I think we get off early on New Year's Eve, but we do have New Year's Day off. So I will have that off. Um, but the first few days of that week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm going to be batching it. So I'm hoping that even when I get home in the evening, that I'll have a lot of time to do some writing. At least that's the plan. And we'll just have to see what happens. And then the kids, or my wife and the kids, will be coming in on Thursday after New Year's. And then they're going to be here Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday they'll be flying back out to Los Angeles. So there won't be a lot done towards the end of that 2 week period. So I can't really put any goals up that I can even hope hitting. I will, well, but I will anyways. uh, if I
Over
can really,
promise,
yeah,
under deliver.
yeah, yep. I mean, if I could get through 4 more chapters of this book in the next 2 weeks, and then maybe even noodle around a little bit more on that new story, that will make me very happy.
Yeah.
The other thing that makes me really happy, and this kind of spills into stuff to share, and I'll have to send it to you. Uh, on Blue Sky, a woman, another author, and I can't remember her name right off the top of my head, but she posted her um, sheet that she uses for the year, keeping track of word counts.
Oh,
Okay. And it's a lot simpler than probably what you do or
yeah.
whatever, because she's not keeping track of what the average number of
Right.
hours of words per hour is and stuff like that. But what is nice is it's laid out. You can see the entire year on one screen.
Oh, that's nice.
It's it's laid out in kind of a horizontal format, and it's just the days, going left and right, number of days in the year, and when you there's the day, and then right below it is the cell where you put the number. And when you put the number in there, it color codes how well you did for that day and how
Okay.
how how good you're doing for the year and stuff. So and then up in the top it tells you what your average words are per week and then per month or whatever. I can't remember exactly, but I like the simplicity of it. I like the fact that there was colors involved. And I'll go ahead and I downloaded it. It's on my Google Drive. I'll go ahead and ship that over to you. You can take a look
Okay.
at it and see if
Yeah.
you find it interesting. So
Okay.
that was my thing to share.
Okay. I do like the idea of color coding. In fact, now that you say that, I'm going to color code mine that I use. Mine has become my calendar. Like I do a lot of stuff more than just writing stuff. I
Mhm.
put things I'm doing. I put appointments, everything in there because that's what I
Okay.
look at every day. So it's become my calendar basically. Um, I don't have anything to share, so that's really going to be the end of the podcast this week. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
All
I'm,
right.
looking forward to having a little bit of a break from the library, and
Mhm.
hopefully we'll have a good driving. It's not supposed to be any bad weather so far, so
Supposed to warm
that's
up.
kind of
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you want to get in touch with me, Jerry at jerryevanoff.com is the email. The website is jerryevanoff.com. And all the links for everything that we do is in the show notes. So please feel free to check those out.
Yeah, and my email address is rich@richcasey.com. You can really find me best on Blue Sky at Casey himself. I gotta get that changed because I can on Blue Sky you can become a verified user if you link your website to your name.
Oh, nice.
And I just haven't done that yet, but
Right.
I really need to do that. It's not like I don't think they have any kind of check marks or anything like Twitter got into, but uh, it's just a way of people knowing that it's really who you claim to be is really you. Because some of the name people on there, like Scalzi and those people, they're constantly fending off other people trying to imitate them, and
Yeah.
so
It seems
that's
like so much work.
yeah, and why would you do it? But
Yeah. Yeah.
so, anyways, yeah, find me there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram if you want to look for me there.
All right, everyone. That's going to be it for this week. We'll talk to you again 2 weeks from today. Thanks for listening. Happy New Year, all the holidays, all that good stuff. And we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Have a great week.